Hi, my name is Nick. I have been working as a sound designer for the past, I think, 8 or so months now for a game studio, and I've learned a ton in the past 8 months, and I kind of wanted to make a video and kind of put some ideas out there because when I was getting into this field, I was like super lost, and there's a bunch of really great, amazing videos out there on sound design and specifically game sound design, which is what I was looking for that really helped shape the way that I was learning and got me on the right path pretty quickly. So there's something that I kind of wanted to go over, which was as I started working in game audio, I was having a rough time sometimes finding the type of sound that I needed. So like if I needed to have a sound, let's say it's like a rope being pulled or something. When you're working in games, that sound needs to be infinitely loopable while also not getting repetitive. So you have to find out how to like make samples and turn them into your own thing, basically. And that's kind of what I wanted to go over today. I am gonna aim this, I think, as like a beginner tutorial, or if you're like just getting into sound design, because if you're intermediate, you probably know about some of the techniques that I'm gonna talk about. So I use Ableton for everything. I know a lot of game audio people use Reaper and stuff. I learned Ableton. I'm in love with Ableton's workflow and UI, and I haven't had a reason to switch yet, so I'm not going to. And I'm sure one day there'll be some sort of limitation where I should need to use Reaper or Pro Tools or whatever. But for now, I think Ableton has the fastest sort of creative sound design workflow where you can just super easily make something and like change it totally with all of its warping modes. Like, let's just type in Foley here. The ways that you can warp all of these really can just like totally change the whole characteristic of a sound. And also, I don't know if this is talked about enough, but you'll see people using Reaper and they're using a ton of like really expensive plugins, which is fine. I have expensive plugins as well, but like on Ableton, you can just use stock. Like I find myself using stock most of the time because it's so CPU efficient and it's just like so good for creative sound. Like hybrid reverb is probably one of my favorite sound design reverbs like ever. It's just amazing. And then also you get Max for Live, which gives you this whole like, you can download a million devices people are making and also make your own if you're into that. But that's why I use Ableton. I'm also saying this because I think if you are getting into sound design, there's a pretty big chance that you were like making music before. That seems to be the path a lot of people take. So you might already have Ableton, and there's no reason to switch. Like I did a bunch of my school projects on Ableton. I work in Ableton, so enough. I'm not sponsored, but that'd be cool. Okay, so anyway, so what we're going to be talking about is granular synthesis. So this is Granulator 3 in Ableton, and I think, am I covering anything up? I tried to put myself in the contextual view of Ableton, so I'm not like blocking out anything important. So this is a granular synthesizer, and if you don't know, this comes with Ableton Suite, by the way. If you have Ableton Suite, you have this. So this is the stock plugin. Basically, if you don't know what granular is, it chops up audio into little grains, but the greatest thing about this it has a bunch of musical applications, but for sound design, you could basically make any sort of audio and infinitely loop it with granular because it just gives you infinite amount of variation. So I didn't plan anything of like what I'm gonna do. So I'm just gonna use this clock Foley. I think this will actually be a good example for like what I'm talking about. So it's like, and by the way, this is just with Ableton. I don't know what this is. This is just in one of the packs that came with it. So okay, so this is all cool. So like, but what if we need this to be looping for however long like a player is touching a clock or whatever? Like, there's so many of these situations in game audio where like in order for it to be interactive, you can't just like have a regular loop, you know, you have to make it an infinite loop that doesn't get tiring to hear, which is something that I had to learn pretty quickly, because before I was just doing, you know, linear sound design where you would just design to a video in a DAW, and then that's way different. There's actually some times where I do need to do that, and I have done that for film and stuff too, where you need to, like, you just can't find a sound in a sound library, so I make my own with like techniques like this. Okay, so this is pretty cool, and by the way, this is just, you don't have to like do this, you could use whatever sample you want, but I was just taking multiple samples, crossfading them so they're seamless. And yeah, this sounds pretty cool, but if you loop this, you're gonna hear the loop. Like, if a player's, you know, messing with the clock and you hear this 5 times, you're gonna be like, okay, what the hell? Like, you've heard this already. So what you could do is drop it into a granular synth. I just press Control J or Command J to consolidate, which turns into one audio file because Granulator needs that. Drop it in. Great. Basically how you're gonna get your infinite loop is you're going to mess with the position. You can mess with all of these, like there's really no right or wrong answer here, but scan will like scan through the grain when you're holding the key down. This is the size of it, so it's like a 2-second long grain. This is less than a second. And this is basically attack and release. Granulator has LFOs, or one LFO and envelopes built in. I think if you're like starting out, it's actually probably a good idea just to have the LFO device instead, so you can like see the changes of the waveform, because you can't see that on here. Like, you change it and you just have to know that like raising the rate makes it higher and stuff, but it's nice to have the visual thing too. So if you're using that LFO on the device, then anything you see with an LFO, you can raise up that number and it will do so. And I just have the LFO on the sine wave, which is why it was like, you could hear it like going back and forth, but if you could change it to move or random, and now it'll go all over the place. It's actually probably a good idea to put that at 100 for the position, and maybe for the grain size turn it down, because you don't want it super, when you hear like those little grains, that might not be what you're looking for if you're going for something realistic. So this is a good start. But yeah, if you wanted, you don't have to use the built-in one. You can just map this to the position, and then you can even see it like going back and forth. You could bring up the variation just to give it more variation. There's a million things you could do in here. You can reverse it if you, I think, do you have to be in loop mode? Yeah, you have to be in loop mode. And then you can randomly reverse some of these too. But now what you could do is, let's say we want a minute-long loop. Okay, I think turn off the reverse, because I'm going for like a realistic sort of thing here. And again, do anything you want here, just experiment with LFOs and scanning, position, all that. Like, this could all, could turn that up a little bit. Transposing could be cool. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Anyway, so let's just bounce this to a new track, new Ableton feature. Really nice. And then there you go. You now went from this repeatable loop to this could be a 5-minute loop if you want, and you're never going to hear it repeating. And then from here you can add like your post-processing effects. So raise it up a bit, maybe want no low end for this. What else could we use? Roar. Roar is really great because it's saturation, but it's multi-band, so you can make the low, mids, and highs saturated separately, which I find is really good to get like super crunchy high end. So maybe let's lower it here and then, you know, let's just browse some. I'll stick with stock because that's kind of the theme I want to go for this. Is just like, you could, if you have Ableton, you could do all this. Like, you don't need super crazy expensive plugins. I don't use I use Sound Toys a lot, and I use Kilohertz, and those are like the two that I paid for that are, I do use those, but again, like a lot of times, especially for quicker stuff, I just end up using stock devices. Hybrid reverb, one of my favorite reverbs ever, can mix between the convolution mode, which is like simulating real spaces, and then the algorithm mode, and these algorithms are just like so wild to me, and definitely some of the most unique reverb algorithms I've heard, like Shimmer. So cool. And then being able to blend between like a more musical reverb and like a real space is really cool for sound design. You get some really unique textures and stuff. So let's try, like, if we were gonna simulate like this being inside, we could do like, yeah, infinite space. Cool. And then to get a seamless loop, you can take let's say the first 5 bars, put it here, crossfade the end back to the beginning. Cool. And now you'll never hear that it's a loop ever, and you can play this for however long you want in your game. And yeah, I think that's all I wanted to go for. This is my first like sort of tutorial video, so this was probably a little all over the place, and I don't really know who I'm like directing this towards, but I did want to just like put some techniques out there that I've been using, and like that has been helping me a lot with work, and you know, maybe you'll get something out of it. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Maybe I'll make some more if this was useful to anybody. Thank you. And if you're just starting out, then keep going. It's just keep making as much as you can. Make some sound redesigns to your favorite stuff, you know, make that a hobby and do as much as you can. It's definitely, every industry right now is a little, you know, backwards, but I think that if you want it badly, you can definitely do whatever you want, really. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you for watching.